So Hawaii people, I grew up among them. I consider myself one of them, and they're actually quite easy to spot by the way that they walk, the way that they talk, their general countenance. And once you get to know them, you'll notice 3 unique characteristics about people from Hawaii: a certain friendliness, a unique and fun sense of humor, and an almost unlimited feeling of generosity that I think stems from the aloha spirit that permeates our local culture. And in talking about these 3 things, I hope that you can agree that yes, Hawaii people are the best. Okay, maybe that's a little bit of hyperbole, but they're at least pretty awesome. Now, it doesn't mean that Hawaii people are perfect. We have our own flaws and our own issues. Sometimes we're stuck in certain ways of thinking that we can never seem to change. Our obsession with eating out and trying new foods. And of course, Hawaii is home to some of the worst drivers I've ever seen. It actually makes me question our reading proficiency as a state. Do people have that hard a time reading no turn on red signs here? But if you look past that, you'll see the Hawaii people, they're the best. The first thing is that Hawaii people are friendly, like really, really friendly. And that's not to say that people aren't friendly in other parts of the world. When I was on the mainland, I spent some time in this small Colorado town called Windsor, and there, the local people embraced us. But I think the friendliness in Hawaii is a little bit more profound. Hawaii people tend to be very touchy-feely, so if you come here, expect the hugs and kisses. But we're even friendly with total strangers. For example, random people will just start talking to you in line at the store or when you're on the bench waiting at the bus stop. And if you're not used to that, it can be a little alarming. But don't worry, it's completely normal in Hawaii. A no strings attached personal interaction that is just to pass the time. And often it's these most random interactions that have some of the most interesting connections and stories. For example, there's just one time where we had to go to the Waimanalo post office. I know, it's pretty country, but we had to get my son's passport. And when we were standing in line, there was this other local family who was also waiting, you know, a local dad, local mom, and 2 kids. And as we were waiting, the dad's kind of looking at me and he comes up to me and says, "Hey, you look like my friend. You know Evan?" And of course I said, "Yeah, that's my cousin." And for the next 10 or 15 minutes, we started talking story about how he knew my cousin. And I was like, "Oh, yeah. And that friendliness is very much appreciated. You know, in a world where people are constantly looking at their phones and just so absorbed in whatever it is that they're looking at, it's nice to be acknowledged and greeted, even if it's something as simple as a how's it or aloha, and not just from people who are paid to say that. The Hawaii sense of humor is very unique, unlike any in the world, and the people of Hawaii carry it really well. The backbone of that humor is really this play on race and stereotypes where we kind of make fun and poke at each other. What I appreciate about our sense of humor is that it's supposed to be fun because everyone can laugh and everyone can be laughed at. Everyone can be a target and you're supposed to laugh. Because sometimes I feel like we put up these guards and oftentimes it's to protect ourselves. But in Hawaii, everyone is just allowed to kind of lower that guard a little, and by doing that, you can create better connections with others. And yes, that makes you a little vulnerable to people, but at the same time, you get to participate in this wonderful banter that we have here. Besides, you kind of have to do that if you're stuck in the middle of the ocean. There's not much to do and you're kind of stuck with the people who are living here. Okay, so now I'm gonna explain some of the general stereotypes about the certain groups that we have here in Hawaii. If you're very hypersensitive and you can't laugh at yourself, then I encourage you to please skip this part of the video. And for everyone else, as I describe the different groups, feel free to take a guess which group is which in the comments below. Okay, deep breath. Good student, short, owns a Toyota or Honda, terrible drivers as they get older. Talks way too loud, cheap, always looking for that deals. Think they know everything, rich, really rude. Thick accent, favorite colors, lime green and purple. Eats dog and baby ducks. Angry, and can get angry real fast. Loves kimchi, watches way too many TV dramas. Wrists covered in gold, big families, always protesting about something. And obviously stereotypes can be hurtful, especially if you are using it with that intent in mind. But when it comes to these types of jokes, I really believe that it comes down to the heart of the joke, and that makes a real big difference. And I love that Hawaii people can laugh at themselves. It's one of the things that I admire about them the most. And actually, I think if you come to Hawaii and choose not to be a part of this laughing together type of culture, in a lot of ways, you're excluding yourself from the bigger overall cultural joke. And it's too bad because you're setting yourself apart from everyone else. And to me, that's a shame, but I understand everyone has their own sense of humor. And the third thing is that Hawaii people are very generous. Now, from a monetary standpoint, actually, Hawaii is quite average. We're kind of in the middle of the pack when it comes to charitable donations. But I think people in Hawaii are generous in a lot of other ways that matter too. For example, it can start off really small, like a neighbor bringing over some extra avocados or mangoes, to some bigger asks such as a weed whacker or even borrowing a car. Like how many times when you gotta move furniture, boom, you got your cousin or your cousin's friend on the phone and you're making all these arrangements to borrow their truck. And I love and appreciate this kind of generosity because it demonstrates a sense of trust, especially with people that you don't really know that well. But then of course you gotta make sure that you pay them back either by treating them to lunch or being really quick to return the favor when they ask for something in the future. But I think where locals are extremely generous is with their time. I can't tell you how many times I needed help and people willingly gave of their time. It wasn't for anything that they could get, they just wanted to help out. For example, when I moved into my new place, my mom was concerned that I wouldn't be able to move in within the hour that I had to reserve the elevator. And so she was on the phone and she called everybody that she knew to come and help me. And so on the day of my moving in, I had, of course, my family, I had my cousins, I had their spouses, I had some friends, and I had an uncle who flew in all the way from Kauai just to help me move. And we were able to move everything into my place within 20 minutes. And I felt extremely relieved and grateful because I saw how many other people were struggling to get their stuff into their condo because they're doing it all by themselves. It looked like it was gonna take them hours to move everything in. Again, there have been so many times when I needed help to do something in Hawaii and people gave willingly of their time and energy. And if you come here and you experience that, I think it's important to recognize and acknowledge and thank those people giving of their time. I think about my grandparents who gave of their time to watch me and my brother. They didn't have to, but they did so that my parents could both work. Time is a limiting thing. It's so precious. And the fact that people in Hawaii are willing to give it away, just so willingly and generously, to me, is an embodiment of what aloha really is. So Hawaii people, while they can sometimes drive you crazy by the way that they drive or the way that they act, I think they're the best. If you ever moved away from Hawaii or you are going to move away, I can definitely say that what you're gonna miss most about Hawaii are the people. I mean, sure, you're gonna miss the food and you're gonna miss the beautiful weather and the beaches and maybe the surf if that's your thing. But let me tell you, you're gonna miss the people so much because there's no place like home and it's the people of Hawaii that make it that home. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching and aloha.
Hello.